Hello, my name is Jeanie LoVetri, and this is the Jeanie LoVetri Show, Our Vocal Universe. I'm so happy to have you join me for this show. It's going to be about all things vocal. We're going to have voice experts, singers, actors, speech language pathologists, and also voice doctors and voice researchers. We're also going to investigate people who are announcers, voiceover artists, and people who conduct choruses. We're going to talk to some of the vocal experts in the world of voice. And there are many different and dynamic people that will be guests on our show who'll talk to you about voice in all its many diverse expressions. We're very happy to have our first guest, who is a fabulous jazz singer, really wonderful, versatile artist who sings in many languages and many styles. I'm happy to welcome Gabriele Tranchina to the show.
Thank you for having me.
I'm happy that you're here.
I really appreciate it to be here with you today.
I want you to start out by talking about your life. And I know that you were from Germany and you studied dancing and singing, and eventually that brought you to the path of becoming a professional singer. So tell us a little bit about that path, how that happened for you.
When I was 19, I finished my high school degree, and I didn't want to run right away into studying or going to college. And I took some time off and I traveled to Asia, to India. And it was the first time I was completely separate from my family and all my friends. And I think that was a very valuable time to actually find who I am and to really search into my own self and find what interests me. But also when I traveled, there were often other Europeans or Americans in guest houses and so forth, and they often had little music jams, and people always said, oh, you would be such a great performer, you should do this. And so when I thought about what I really enjoy doing most in my life, I said to myself, I love to sing and I love to dance. But I had no background, not much of a background anyway. So when I came back to Germany, I studied with a teaching degree and had voice and dance as my majors, with music as voice major and in physical ed, dance.
And that was a part of your college training, right? Mm-hmm. And when did you come to the United States?
Right after. I auditioned and visited some schools in Europe to see if I could do I was first thinking maybe Broadway, musical theater. And I didn't fit into a lot of those schools because I was already, I guess, too old for that. For them, they were like 13-year-old girls sometimes, or the schools just wasn't right for me. And so I just said, I'm going to New York. And there wasn't that much thought behind it. And I saw in one of the dance magazines that there was a school that accommodated foreign students and you could get a visa through them. And so that's how I did it. And then when I settled here, I also looked for a voice teacher.
So you came to the Big Apple to make it, right?
Absolutely.
And then, so you had a number of very interesting teachers, very famous, well-known teachers like Mark Murphy and Sheila Jordan. What was it like to study with them?
I think each one of them had something very important to give. Mark Murphy unfortunately passed away, but Sheila Jordan is now going to be 87 this year, and she's still out there.
She is still out there.
Giving workshops all over the world and performing all over the world. It's just amazing. Mark Murphy, I learned a whole lot from his voice workshops. Mm-hmm. And he had a gift to pick that one thing that the singer needed most. Ooh. And he would single that out and work with that person. And I always found that that person sounded like 3 times better afterwards.
Wow.
And Sheila, she is different in that way. She kind of first looks into what your needs are, and then she helps you through from that point of view and helps you develop.
Okay, so then I know you are collaborated now with many different people, and your husband Joe Tranchina is your musical partner as well, and that you do things together, like work on arrangements of songs or sometimes even compose. Tell us a little bit about that partnership.
It's not so easy to work with a husband. But Joe and I actually tend to work really well together. But there is a lot of back and forth. And sometimes I come up with an idea. May it be like that I read a great poem and I said, wouldn't it be great if we would write music to that? Or I come up with a melody and I sing it for him. And then I say, couldn't we do something with that? And then Joe does something with it, and then he bounces it back at me, and I said, no, this is not what I had in mind. And then we go back and forth and back and forth, but then in the end, it turns always out to be something really beautiful.
Well, that is a perfect moment for us to actually see that in action. We have a wonderful video clip that we can show our audience, and I want you to set that up for them to let them know what they're going to see.
We are going to be at the Hudson Valley Jazz Festival, and we have Joe Vincent Tranchina on the piano, Andy Ulau on the bass, and Bobby Sanabria on the drums, and Renato Toms on percussion. And what you are going to see is an excerpt of some improvisation.
Okay, let's roll that clip.
I don't know what time it was. I don't know, no. Your time, my time, any time. Your time, my time. No time, any time. Hey, yeah, yeah, yeah. Salaye, malaye, kalombe. Aye, aye, masaya, naye, abosea. Inga soleya, mangia, somba. Esa calera, sobeya, la vaya, soe.
Wow, that was amazing. That's
Thank you.
like every kind of color that a voice can make. That's so exciting to know that you're making something up right there in that minute while you're singing, as if you were composing a whole new melody. And what's it like to do that? It must be exciting.
It is exciting. It is if somebody put you at the edge of a cliff and tells you to jump. So there's one side that is extremely scared, and the other side is a little child that says, oh, let's play, you know.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. It looks like you're having a lot of fun and that you're really so free, vocally and physically and emotionally.
It wasn't always that way.
Yeah.
You really have to develop it.
Okay, so tell me how did you develop yourself? What did you do to dig in more to what you wanted to be as an artist?
I think the most important thing before you do anything is to get a strong technique, the voice technique, and to have a good sound. For my music form, jazz, it's very important to have a good sound and your own personal sound. Once that is established, then you want to make sure that you can put, just like a painter, as many colors onto your voice as possible, and try to make your voice as expressive as possible.
Yes, well, it certainly was in that clip.
And then for jazz as an art form, you can dive into improvisation and get more secure in that.
Yeah.
But also as a lyricist, you should always make sure that the lyrics matter more than anything else.
Right. I always.
At least that is for me the case. Other vocalists may find it more important to focus on the melody, but for me it was always very important to focus on the lyrics.
I think that sometimes jazz singers forget that the one thing we have is words that an instrumentalist doesn't have. And I think that's so important because it's another added ingredient in the communication.
I think the really good jazz singers actually do worry about the lyrics. As you mentioned before, Mark Murphy, for example, he was so brilliant with that and how he treated a song, what tempo he selected, and how he delivered the lyrics was extremely important.
Yeah, I think that's a really dynamic thing in any vocal music, is the use of the words as a part of the whole package of expressing the song.
Yes, also you want to go with the dynamic of the music and somehow make it as a coordination of the lyrics together with the song or the melody to really get the best out of a song.
Right. And then there's the other ingredients, like who you're playing with. Now, you've had the opportunity to play with some very, very high-level musicians, and certainly that must be a food for thought and creative expression. What's it like to work with all different musicians?
When I started to work with musicians, I always thought I'd be more secure with people that are not so good. Because they would allow me to make more mistakes or something. I'm not sure. But I found that actually a good musician supports you and carries you better. And therefore, working with great musicians elevates you.
Yeah, that makes sense to me. That great minds coming together creates something really dynamic, and that they have an inspiration back and forth between each other. That's that vibe everybody talks about.
And also I think you raise your level when you're with better musicians.
Yeah. Now, that makes me think of something else, which is the idea that there's a lot of people who go to college now to learn how to be jazz musicians, and they get a lot of training, and yet sometimes that may make it so intellectual it's hard to really be enthusiastic. How do you feel about that? Do you think everyone should study in a college situation?
I think everybody has to do what they think is best for them. I cannot tell. I had to see what was best for me, and that is the only thing I can say. And even then, later on, maybe you say, oh, maybe I should have done it this way or that way. But you can only make one choice at a time. And I know that there is most likely something to be said to go to college and get a good foundation musically, but you shouldn't get stuck in it.
No.
You should always try to listen and watch. Now that YouTube is so great, watch great performers and see what they do and use that as an inspiration.
Yeah, that's a very good way to sum it up. You know, find your own way. And a college education is always a good foundation, but then afterwards you got to go out and be in the real world and dig in, and that's very important. Now, I wanted you to talk a little bit more about what is your greatest joy about the whole process in terms of singing. Like, if you had to choose one thing, could you narrow it down to one thing? Is there such a thing as the most exciting or most favorite part about being a singer?
The greatest joy as a singer for me is that I can always find new avenues and there is no end in learning. And that is something that I find extremely exciting.
Yeah.
I can dig into all kinds of music from all different parts of the world, and I can search and find music that is truthful to me and that is meaningful to me. I can develop always to be a better and a better and a better and a better and a better singer.
Yes,
So
and you do a lot of world music, correct?
that's true.
You
yes.
sing in many languages, and I know you like Brazilian music a lot.
I love Brazilian music. I love Latin music. There's just something extremely spiritual to me about this music. It makes me feel good. And I think what makes you feel good is something that you should do as a performer.
Yeah.
Instead of,
Right.
something that maybe doesn't make you feel so
Yeah,
great.
that's very important. In your most recent CD, you had the music was communicating love in all its different forms, and you had that in many different languages. Do you feel that your artistic output is also a form of healing for yourself and for the community at large?
I think music is love and is giving love through music. And I experience that a lot when I perform, that people come afterwards and they feel touched, or that their spirits are elevated, or especially when we do world music kind of performances, people get up and dance sometimes and they feel happier afterwards. And I think as an artist, that's a great joy. And you feel love from the audience back.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful? That's a
it's
fabulous
great.
experience. I like the rapport that we get with an audience. Do you feel that that contributes also that love back from the audience?
It certainly makes a difference to me.
Yeah.
I'm not the type who like, I don't enjoy performing in front of one person.
Yeah.
I like to have an audience and I like to give to an audience.
Yeah, I've known performers who hate performing. They just want to be rehearsing and be in the studio, and then when they have to get out in front of an audience, that's the part they don't like. But that's, for us, it's different. You're one of those people that loves being in front of the audience and having the audience respond to you. And I think that's obvious when anyone sees you perform. That comes across very clearly.
As a human, I'm a people person, so it's my nature to be a performer first, I think, and then a singer.
Yeah.
But not everybody is the same.
Yeah, and you're working with many different aspects of singing. So we have another clip coming up of that same performance, and this is a very different kind of singing and a different kind of song. Can you tell us about what we're going to see next?
Yeah, this was also at the Hudson Valley Jazz Festival with the same band. And we are performing a very lyrical song. It's a slow bossa nova called by Henry Mancini, and it's called A Slow Hot Wind.
And I was just going to say,
I was just trying to think.
yeah, which one was it? I also wanted to tell the audience that bossa nova is a kind of a song that is from Brazil, right?
Correct.
So it's a particular kind of song that we get from that country. So this is our next clip.
His gaze blew over me like a slow, hard wind. Some days it's too warm to fight. A slow, hard in the shade, like a cool drink waiting. He said with slow fire in his eyes, just waiting.
Oh, wow. That was so different. Gee whiz, that's like a whole nother person singing. And it's just so wonderful to hear how much different it was vocally and musically, and how you were able to encompass that in the same performance. What were you thinking about that made it be such a different way to sing?
I don't think at all.
No, it just comes.
I think it's better to leave the thinking part of your brain out and to be inside of the music.
Yeah.
To be in the moment is, especially for jazz and world music, very important.
Yeah.
And I think music is an art form that is in the moment. So if you think too much, you're getting in the way of things.
Yeah. Well, it was really wonderful to hear that completely different feeling, and also see that on your face. That is the idea of being taken somewhere. I heard you discuss that the song sort of takes you wherever it does, right? And I think it's very interesting to see, to be an audience member and see that happen. It was really, it's really wonderful. When young people are watching our show and they're looking at it thinking, gee, I would like to follow in that path that Gabriele has been in, and I'd like to be a singer. What kind of advice would you give a young person who might be thinking, gee, I wonder if I could do that?
First and foremost, you really have to always soul search and find out what you really want to do. Because there will be many, many people that will give you all kinds of advice or even put you down.
Yeah.
I mean, unfortunately, this is a cruel world out there. And it can happen very easily that you get discouraged.
Yeah.
So you have to really stick to what you want to do and be strong and develop and enjoy the journey, and don't let other people get you down. Stay in the positive and move forward with what you want to do.
How do you feel about the social media, the internet, YouTube, and those kinds of tools, which didn't exist when we were younger, but they have access to now? Should they use those things?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. I am from a different generation than the young people that come up now. There are pros and cons. A lot of people that are younger basically put everything up on YouTube.
Yes.
And that can also be a bad thing.
Right.
Especially if you want to show something to someone from the industry, and then when it's not on the level, people may never, you have only one chance sometimes, and they may never look at you again.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of from that generation where I have much less up on YouTube, but at least what I have up, I think was good.
Yeah.
Quality of sound, good music, and that is also important.
Yeah, I think that young people don't realize that the image they're creating is important, and they can't just put anything out just because it's there. I love the ones where they're in the bedroom with the phone and they're doing something, and you think, ay. What about also in terms of with young people? How do they realize whether they're singing in a way that is correct for them, or whether that is their real voice? How should they know whether they're getting instruction or guidance that takes them in a good direction?
I would first start looking for a teacher that teaches the style of music that you want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you want to do opera and you get a teacher that is specialized in belting or in rock music, then I would say that is not the right teacher. And vice versa, if you want to study any sort of popular music, may it be gospel or rock or jazz, then I don't think it would be good to go to a teacher that is trained in classical music, because that can actually, you will not get the sound that you really want, and you may actually do more worse than good. When I came to New York, at the college, I had to promise that teacher that I do classical music.
Yeah.
And when I arrived here and I sang, it was just not the right thing, and I had to completely retrain myself, and that is a waste of time.
Yeah, unfortunately, that is often the case, that people, when they're young, are seeking training, and they don't necessarily know what kind of training to get, and then later they have to undo some of the training they get. So we really are lucky to have a vocalist like yourself with a lot of different kinds of experiences.
Thank you.
And lots of different interests, and somebody who's always looking to grow. I want the audience to know that all artists who are really artists are always looking to grow and dig deeper and explore more and interact with others. That's the best way to be. and Gabriele certainly represents that well. If people are interested in finding out more about you and your music, they can go to your website, and we're going to put that information up for you on the screen so that you can find her website. What is it again? What's the name of it, your website?
It's GabrieleTranchina.com.
And you can go there.
And you will find also upcoming performances.
Wonderful. Don't forget that this program is going to continue to feature vocal experts in all kinds of fields. We're going to have lots of diverse information about the voice and all the things that go on with voice. And some of the things that are going to come up, you may not have any awareness, like voice research. What is voice research? How does that work? And what do voice scientists do? And how does that help singers or speakers? How does that allow us to grow and to know what it is that there is to know about the voice, its expression, its health, and what is that to do, has that to do with you? So we want you to think about your vocal universe. It's a very vast world of sound and speech. We want you to go out there and listen and look and learn, because your vocal universe matters. And what we do with our voices, how we take in that sound, is also very important. Thank you so much for coming to visit us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
It's been fun to really talk about it. Thank you. Thank you so much.